Hi everybody, Rebecca here. I wanted to make a video and talk about my relationship with alcohol and why I decided to break up with alcohol. I'm going on almost 9 months of having ended my relationship, my lifelong affair with liquor, with alcohol, with wine. And I just wanted to share my journey and share why I quit and how I quit and what 9 months, almost going on 9 months of sobriety has been like, in hopes that it might inspire some of you or encourage some of you who also feel like alcohol is a relationship in your life that is no longer serving you. So I started having a love affair with alcohol as early as I can remember. I remember being like little, like 7 or 8, and like Christmas morning, getting to have Irish coffee with the grown-ups, or at, parties, getting little sips of alcohol. And I remember always really liking it, or always feeling like I was doing something really cool. Looking back, I must have thought that's what it was like to be a grown-up. Maybe I wanted to grow up, as all kids do. But anyways, I developed a flavor, taste, palate, whatever, for alcohol early. And I got drunk for the first time when I was 12. And I love to tell that story, and it makes my mom feel like I'm saying horrible things about her, and that's not why I tell the story. I just think it's important for myself to recognize that little dopamine center in my brain that responded to alcohol, that happened early, and it helps me just to have a little more compassion with my lifelong after struggle with alcohol. But alcohol quickly, to me, became something that really worked efficiently for me to feel good. And I suffered from a really low self-esteem, and drinking and looking forward to drinking, and all through middle school and high school. I mean, in middle school, I remember in the summer, one summer, raiding my parents' liquor cabinet and getting blackout drunk. And I don't even know, I lost time. And you're talking about age like 12. And I think I was drunk for like a good 48 hours. I mean, I had no control over alcohol from very early on. And, but it really served me, to be honest. Like, I felt better in social situations if there was going to be alcohol. And I didn't really know how to be in social situations without it. To me, that's what socializing was you just get shit-faced. And it was very much a social lubricant for me, and it very much took me out of my own deep feelings of shame and humiliation and low self-worth, and gave me this kind of false party girl, fun time, persona. And I continued to drink up until my junior year of high school. And then I sensed that my life was out of control at that point, and I really tried to turn over a new leaf. I stopped drinking. I started partying altogether. And so for the next couple years, I didn't drink, and I that's largely due to the fact that I chose to hang around with other teenagers who didn't drink, other kids who didn't drink. It just wasn't a big part of our thing. We went out dancing. I did smoke cigarettes and drank coffee. It was the 90s, and that's what you did. Sit in Denny's and smoke packs of cigarettes and drink coffee and talk about life and how much life sucks and how hard it is. And but did that, met and got pregnant and married my daughter's father. Am I saying that right? My boyfriend at the time, I was 19, ended up pregnant Obviously that was, not my plan. However, looking like, I can't say it wasn't my plan also. Like, I was engaging in a way that I think subconsciously it was my plan. And I have this amazing daughter, and married her father and went on to have 3 more children. I had 4 children. So during this time, I wasn't drinking, and I was pretty I mean, on occasion drinking, but pretty much anti-drinking. In fact, it was a kind of a point of contention between my ex and I at the time. I had a real problem with his drinking, and I was super self-righteous and didn't think he should be drinking so much. And easy for me, I was breastfeeding and pregnant, so I couldn't drink. And, shortly after my 4th child, I may be missing some time in there, but alcohol just really wasn't a thing for me. And I lived in the South, and it just wasn't culturally part of what we did. But shortly after my 4th was born and I stopped breastfeeding, maybe a little bit before I stopped breastfeeding, I quickly found alcohol. It was like an old friend came back to visit me. And it was a time in life where I was not taking care of myself, not taking care of my marriage. I was overextended. Like, I had 4 children under the age of 6, 8. I can't do the math. I had a child every 2 years. Sounds. I was drunk. I don't remember. Just kidding. I had sort of kidding. I had 4 kids, very young. Was trying to homeschool. My ex at the time he's working full time. He was in school part time. He was super involved in the church that we went to, and like on the worship team and leading the youth. And looking back, I don't even know when we ever saw each other, but we did. But it was pretty much, we were leading kind of 2 separate lives. I was raising kids. He was doing his thing. I mean, we got along really well. We were a good team, and so it didn't seem like it was a problem. But we both began to escape reality, and alcohol is really, really useful for that. Alcohol is a really great way to not deal with what's in front of you. And I really liked myself as a drunk. I was that person who drank wine, and like I loved everybody and everything was great, and I opened up, and life was grand, and it didn't feel like it was causing any harm. It felt like it was only adding positive experiences to my life. We ended up moving to Scotland, sold the house. He quit his job. We packed up the 4 kids. My youngest was 3 at the time. So my oldest was 12, I believe. Riley told me if I'm wrong. Packed up, moved overseas to Scotland, which was an exciting adventure. Amazing. But while there, I fell into the drinking culture even more. It was just what we did with moms. Everybody got together, the kids played, the moms drank wine. I don't know what the men were doing. I think they drank wine with us sometimes too. They were probably I don't know what they were doing. I fell in love with all these moms, and there was just a really amazing time in my life, to be honest, of what felt like, connecting with these women and being in Scotland and raising our kids. But sadly, I look back and I was so drunk for so much of it, that when we did finally leave, a lot of those connections just fizzled because, I'm not sure I was fully present for a lot of what went down there, because I was drunk so much, and that's sad to me. That's really sad to me. But anyways, we ended up leaving Scotland, coming back to Colorado, and things just got worse. And our marriage had pretty much dissolved. Our lives had pretty much dissolved. Our dream of being in Scotland just kind of fell apart. We came back and just started drinking even more. And it was pretty problematic. And I have a ton of regret about that season in my life, of the kind of mother I was, the kind of wife I was being, the kind of friend I was. Um, Alcohol is not to blame, but most of the things that I did that I deeply regret, I don't think I would have done if I had been completely sober. Um, and I blame myself for taking the drink. I don't blame alcohol. I have, in part of my recovery from that season of life, it was really important for me to take full responsibility for all of my choices. That wasn't even an AA thing. That was just, I intuitively knew the only way for me to forgive myself and to learn what I needed to learn and to move forward was to fully own what I did. So I don't blame the destruction of my marriage and my relationships and our lives on alcohol, but alcohol certainly destroyed my relationships and my marriage and my life at the time. I don't think I've ever really said that out loud, but it really did. Drinking wasn't the problem. Drinking was the symptom of the problem that I wasn't willing to address. But so in the midst of that, I gave it up entirely and went on a journey of sobriety and trying to break up with alcohol, which was good. And it helped me to get clear about where I was in life and kind of start to deal with the wreckage of my life. And I made some good decisions. I decided to move back into, I moved in with my family, me and my kids. That was the best choice for us at the time. I left my then husband, my now ex. That needed to be done. And started to clean up my life, but moving and going, then deciding then that divorce was inevitable, and dealing with all of that. I held on to sobriety for a little while, but quickly fell back into using drinking as a way to cope with my life. It was what I knew, it was the way I had dealt with hard feelings from the time I was 12. Like, drinking was a good friend to me. Drinking felt like a good friend to me. Drinking took away my pain. I experienced so much pain in so many other ways, like the damage to my body, the hangovers, the regrets, the waking up, like not really sure what kind of conversation I'd had the night before, or who I had talked, like exchanged numbers with, or whatever. And mind you, I'm a single parent during this time too. So all of the times I wasn't fully present for my kids, I mean, I was a functioning alcoholic, is what I was. I managed to, I never missed work from drinking. I didn't miss important things. I was there for my kids when I needed to be, but I wasn't there in the way that I wish that I would have been, had I been fully present and fully sober. But drinking just felt so normal, and it just feels so normal in our society. Like, it just feels like just something you do. And there was always this cognitive dissonance in me. Like, I've always been someone who's an extreme. Like, I don't do things in moderation. And so drinking was like that with me. And I always felt like, I want to be free from this. I don't want to drink anymore, but I can't imagine not drinking. Like, I so relied on it. I was so addicted to the habit of drinking, and I so believed that it was serving me, and that it was more positive than negative. I even had myself convinced that, alcohol is high in antioxidants. It's good for us, and that it relieves the stress, and the stress makes us more sick than the alcohol does. And I was fully brainwashed and by the poison, by the addiction. And I'm not, for me, I had a very dysfunctional relationship with alcohol, and it started to more and more become evident that it was holding me back from life, that it wasn't actually helping me. And I wanted to be free from drinking just for the sake of being free from drinking. Like, I just didn't want anything to have mastery over me. I wanted to feel like I had self-mastery, that I had a choice, that I could do this thing called life without a bottle of wine as my sidekick. I needed to know that I could face my life, that I could choose what I put in my body, that I could function in a social setting without being inebriated. Like, I started to want to be present. And I started to want to feel all the things that I had been running from my whole life. And I started to want to feel connected to my, alcohol kept me out of my own body. Like, it was a way I would dissociate with myself, and not deal with my life, and not look at my life and not examine how I got to where I was, and truly where was I going, and look at all the ways I hadn't taken responsibility for myself and for my life. And alcohol really kept me from being able to do that. And so the reasons I wanted to quit were, like, I just wanted to be free. I didn't want anything to have control over me. And I wanted to end this war in my mind of, like, I should quit. And then I quit for a few months, but then I end up going back to drinking. And then when I start drinking, I have a hard time stopping. Like, it wasn't just a glass or two of wine a night. It was inevitably a bottle, if not more. God forbid I'd bring home a box of wine, which I would often do. And then I couldn't even keep track. I'd just drink until oftentimes I'd wake up in the morning with a half a glass of wine next to me because I'd taken a glass of wine to fall asleep to. Like, I drank a lot. And also I started to not recover as quick. Like, I was starting to feel really ill from drinking. Like that headache and that just, like, sick stomach and that, like, lethargy, and it just wasn't my friend anymore. And yet it would blow my mind that I could feel so hungover all day, and then around 3:30, 4 p.m. that hangover lifts, and by 5 o'clock I'd be ready for a glass of wine again. Like, I knew that we didn't have the best relationship, alcohol and I. I felt like I was in an abusive relationship. And I was in an abusive relationship with alcohol. I had to leave it. I have the gift of the man that I fell in love with 5 years ago now. He does not drink, and he was a major influence on me. Just being around someone who didn't drink just opened my eyes, opened the possibility in my mind, opened my perspective that you can have life without alcohol, and that you can walk through hard times without alcohol, and that you can deal with stress without alcohol, and that you can enjoy things without alcohol. In fact, you can enjoy your life 10 times more, 20 times more by being fully sober and being fully present. And I just envied that he never woke up hungover, and envied that he didn't have this, like, wrestling thing happening in him, like, oh, I drank too much, or am I gonna drink tonight? And if I'm gonna drink, how much am I gonna drink? And who's gonna drive? And the expense. You didn't have the expense of alcohol. And I was just envious of that. And I longed for it deep within me. I longed for that freedom. I longed for sobriety. But it was so hard to let go of alcohol for me. But, at the same time, I began my life coaching journey, my health coaching journey. And so I really had this cognitive dissonance, because now I'm starting to be challenged to become someone who could build a business, and become someone who could coach people, and become someone who's an inspiration, and become someone who can model that anything's possible and become someone who has mastery over her health and her life and who's taking full responsibility for her life. And so I had this pull, like, I want these things and I want this life and I want to be this person, and yet I want to drink. And I was also beginning to like deepen my my intuition and deepen and seek spiritually again, which I hadn't in years. And I also felt like I can't connect with my spirit. I can't connect with God. I can't connect with my intuition and drink. Like I just started to clearly see that, like, this thing that I was holding on to so that I could have happy hour with my friends, for some reason believing that I couldn't go to happy hour if I didn't drink, which is not true. But believing that I had this glass of wine when I started cooking dinner. It was just a thing that I loved and that I wanted, and it just felt like this amazing thing. But I started to see how it was like this thing, this glass of wine, or this amazing life where I get to fully become who I'm meant to be and heal everything that I had all the pain that I had carried with me for so many years, and release all of the emotional baggage that you can't release the emotions until you feel them. You can't feel them when you're constantly numbing yourself with alcohol. And realizing that I could have the health that I wanted, and I could feel clean on the inside, and I could stop doing things that I regretted, and I could build a business. And at night I wouldn't have to say, no, I can't take coaching calls at night because at 5 o'clock I'm going to start drinking wine and I can't coach people. So it came down for me where I felt like it was time for me to make a choice. And thank God I finally was ready to choose myself and choose more than to choose what was familiar and safe. I had drank basically my whole life, and I was scared of what life on the other side of alcohol might look like. And I went through a few months of disorientation and being really isolated, and going to bed at 7 at night and like waking up and being exhausted and tired, and like emotions coming up that I hadn't felt in years. And it was not an easy thing. But how did I do it? At the time I was in a coaching program, and there was another woman in there who had given up drinking. And her name's Jamie, and she's like, she is Hype Girl Healing. If you ever, I'll drop her link in the comments. She's such a rock star, and she just made sobriety look so badass. And she was so excited about the sober life, and she just was so inspirational. And I found myself, when I was able to envision, so I had my boyfriend who was my sober hero, and then Jamie came into my life, and for some reason just her story just hit me at the right time in the right moment, and just talking to her, and she just pumped me up about how amazing life without alcohol can be. And I got excited about life without alcohol. So I went from feeling like I was giving something up to feeling like I was gaining everything. And that was crucial, because as long as we feel like we're losing something that is really important to us, or we're something's being deprived, or we're having to give up something that we love, like, we're gonna fail. We're gonna come back to it. It's like that dysfunctional relationship. As long as, like, when we're attached to it, we're not willing to let it go. We're not willing to let ourselves be loved in a different way. We'll keep returning to the mediocre, to the less than. So my mind started to shift from, God, life without alcohol is going to be so hard, to, oh my God, life without alcohol is going to be so amazing. And that was an important shift. And I had also read, and I've been trying to quit for 8 years, on and off. I mean, I would quit, drink. So this wasn't like a one-time thing like this, But this time was different, because I had done also, I had the tools from coaching to do the inner work and to deal with the stuff that would come up, and to set up the accountability for myself and nurture and nourish myself during the process. So looking back, I'm like, I started this journey, like 8 years ago, and it's been like this. And in it, I think I intuitively knew I had to build structures and systems around myself that would enable me to let go of this thing, alcohol, that I was so dependent on. So the structures were, other women coaches that I could go to for support and for coaching and for help. And I had my own coach, and I knew, I'd learned about how to really, really care for myself. And I had a coach, like how to deal with the emotions. And I learned the questions to ask myself. And I knew I had started to become conscious enough of my own self that I knew when to rest, and I knew when to stop, and I knew when to, I knew how to speak to myself kindly and compassionately through it. And so I had all these things in place. And so, when I finally in October of last year decided to quit, it wasn't like I was just taking this thing away and then there was this big void and I didn't know what to do, right? Like, so I had things that I had unknowingly put in place that would carry me through into complete freedom from alcohol. And so I ended up doing a cleanse like back in October, just deciding, all right, I'd done cleanses before and always kept drinking wine throughout my cleanses, which was just funny to me. And this time I was like, no, I'm gonna just go without alcohol. And I did. And it was amazing. And it was so empowering. And I just kept going, and I kept showing up for myself in that way. And I kept diligent in my thoughts of like, this is a positive thing. Like I'm gaining, I'm choosing not to drink. It's not I'm giving up alcohol. It's like I'm choosing life. Like I'm choosing building a business. I'm choosing, growing up emotionally. I'm choosing taking full responsibility for my life and my health and my income and building something that's going to last. And I'm choosing to use my life to have an impact, and I'm choosing to help people, and I'm choosing to be alive, and I'm choosing to be the mother that I always wanted to be, and I'm choosing to be the partner that I want to be, and I'm choosing to get really dirty, gritty, honest with myself about my thoughts and my feelings and my emotions and my desires, and I'm choosing to become fully present in my life. And it's hard. It's hard, it's painful, but it's also glorious to wake up sober, to wake up clear-headed, to wake up energized, to not wake up with that regret of like, damn it, I drank more than I wanted to. Oh my God, what did I say? What did I do? Is priceless. And I feel so grateful and so excited to feel like I am empowered in that part of my life where I don't feel like alcohol has the pull over me that it used to, and the lure that it used to. I mean, I just see it now as poison, and I'm seeing ways that I've passed the habit on to my own kids, and in becoming honest with myself about that, like, okay, I did that. What can I do now? How can I turn this ship around? How can I now model for them something different, something better? And that's fun. That's hard. But life is, we wake up every day with the opportunity to choose something new and something better. It's never too late to turn the ship around and to have an impact. Never too late. And I've worked through, and I'm working through a lot of pain around the choices that I made. Compassion and forgiveness and surrender and grace and taking responsibility and making better choices. Those are all values of mine that allow me to go forward with confidence and go forward without shame, because shame is a choice. And I'm just so grateful to not be drinking anymore. And I never really thought I could do it, life without alcohol. I never really thought that I could pull it off. It turns out I can. And so it makes me think, well, what else can I do? What else can I do? So it's good. Thank you for listening. I hope this story is encouraging to you. If you're someone who deep down knows your own relationship with alcohol is dysfunctional and you're ready to break up with alcohol, if I can do it, anyone can do it. And I know we hear people say that all the time, but it's the truth. Like, I was good at drinking. I was really good at drinking, and I loved it. And I don't miss it. I am so grateful every day that I don't have the desire for it anymore. And so much in life has opened up for me when I made space by removing that thing that was holding me back. And yeah, if this resonates, if you have any questions, comments, message me. I'd love to talk to you about it. Yeah, that's all for now. Cheers.